Hey guys, I'm on for Podcast and welcome to week 16 of the 2018-2019 Premier League review. If you want a new series, what we do is take a look at the past set of Premier League results, we take a look at the Premier League table, and we finish off by looking at the top goal scorers. So here are the past set of Premier League results. These games were played on Saturday the 8th, Sunday the 9th, and Monday the 10th of December 2018. Also next to the games are the times in this video, so if you want to hear about a specific match, just go to the time next to the game and you'll skip out all the other crap. But without further ado, let's get into our first match. We start with Bournemouth versus Liverpool. Liverpool took the lead in the 25th minute as Mo Salah gave the visitors the lead. Lovely interplay between Salah and Firmino as they play a 1-2, which leads to Bobby Firmino taking a hopeful effort from distance. Asmir Begovic can't hold it, and in comes Salah to tap home the rebound, despite being a good distance offside. Salah was offside by bloody loads, he was. I don't know how he's got away with it. The linesman properly messed up there, even I'll admit. And Liverpool doubled their lead 3 minutes into the second half when Mo Salah got his second of the match. Nothing wrong with this one though, as he gets the ball deep inside the Bournemouth half, turns around and just runs. He ends up in a 2-on-1 with Nathan Ake trying to stand him up. He does well. Salah was clearly fouled from behind by Cook, but he stays on his feet. The ref does well to play the advantage as Salah steps inside and rolls one into the far corner. And Liverpool got their third in the 67th minute as Steve Cook put the ball into his own net. It started with a Bournemouth corner that Liverpool clear and they break forward with Salah on the right hand side. He switches it to Andy Robertson, who laid it back to Fabinho. He's being urged to shoot, but instead he gives it back to Robbo. The Scot then draws a low ball in and it bounces off the back of Steve Cook's thigh and past his own keeper. And Liverpool got their fourth 10 minutes later when Mo Salah completed his hat-trick. Ball was played forward by Adam Lallana up towards Mo Salah, who was battling it out with Steve Cook. Salah gets the better of him, makes his way towards the keeper. He goes past Asmir Begovic but was forced a bit wide, and by this time Bournemouth had players on the line. Begovic is coming back in, so Mo just cuts back inside of him again, faking him, still doesn't shoot, waits for Nathan Ake to commit himself forward and pokes it past him into the net. And that's how the game ended. A pretty dominant performance from Liverpool, who were never really troubled at the back. When Bournemouth would try and come forward, they would be swarmed by a sea of Liverpool players who worked together like a pack of hyenas to get the ball back. They came to Bournemouth, passed them off the pitch, which is what Bournemouth usually look to do at home. So when they were given it, they just didn't know how to handle it. Bournemouth are in a bit of a slump recently, only having won 1 of their last 5, whereas for Liverpool, they're still undefeated, still the best defensive record, and still putting the pressure on Man City ahead of their big game against Chelsea later on the Saturday. And we move on to that game as Chelsea took on Manchester City. Man City were all over Chelsea in the first half, constantly closing them down, and Chelsea always give the ball away. So obviously, Chelsea took the lead on the brink of half time. A cross was put into the City box and it was headed to the edge of the area when Marcus Alonso brought it down. He gave it to Eden Hazard in the box. He touches it away, squares it across the box, and there running onto it was N'Golo Kante, who smashed home with Chelsea's first shot on target. And Chelsea doubled their lead in the 77th minute as they made their first corner of the match count as David Luiz headed it home. It was swung in from the left hand side. Leaping up at the front post was the centre back, who flicked his header back across goal and into the far corner via a tap of the bar. And that's how the game ended. In massive win in the title race as it just blew it open. To be honest, I thought Man City were brilliant at the game. They just looked like they lacked the ruthlessness in front of goal that we've all come to expect from them. Man City started quick, and as I mentioned, Chelsea didn't have a shot on target until just before half time, and they scored with it, and they did improve after the break, with that goal clearly giving them confidence to push on. As I said, City seemed to lack the cutting edge in front of goal, and Chelsea were the better side in the second half, as City's first defeat of the season means that there's only one undefeated team left. And we move on to Manchester United versus Fulham. United took the lead in the 12th minute as Ashley Young did it all himself. He picked the ball up on the byline, should be crossing it, but instead he bundles his way past Dennis Adoy, makes his way into the area and curls one into the far corner past Sergio Rico. And United doubled their lead on the half-hour mark as Juan Mata got the goal. The Fulham defence decided to just go walkabouts. They're nowhere to be seen as Ashley Young finds Romelu Lukaku. He releases Marcus Rashford down the left-hand side. He then pulls it back to Juan Mata, who had acres of space to pick his spot in the bottom corner from just inside the box. And United got their third 5 minutes before half-time as Romelu Lukaku pretty much wrapped the game up in the first half. Fulham again just sliced open as Jesse Lingard played in Juan Mata. He squared it to Lukaku, and for the second time in the match, a Man United player was in tons of space as he tapped home. But Fulham will get the perfect chance to get back into the game in the 67th minute as they were given a penalty. Ander Herrera brought down Abubakar Kamara in the box, and the ref pointing to the spot. Kamara also stepped up to take it, and he slotted it into the bottom corner. But less than a minute later, Fulham were reduced to 10 men as Andre Franco and Gisa was shown a second yellow for some reason. I genuinely don't know why. He comes in, Rashford literally jumps on his back. For some reason, the ref books Anguissa. Rashford isn't happy, and the ref shows a second yellow. This is genuinely one of the most baffling decisions I've seen. This is the prime example of a player's reaction making it worse. There is nothing wrong with this. I don't know why this is a yellow card at all. It's not even a foul. Never mind a yellow. It's not even a foul. And United would get their 3-goal lead back as Marcus Rashford got the goal. He didn't jump on anybody's back this time, but he gets the ball in the corner of the box under no pressure at all. Slams a shot towards goal that goes past Rico at his near post. Really poo from the... He's got to be saving that as the keeper. And that's how the game ended. They've won a game, everyone. They've done this, they've gone and done it. And of course, they have to win now when it's Liverpool versus United next week. It's United's first win in 5, and Fulham for some reason just decided not to play in the first half. It's the first time this season that United won a league game by 3 goals, and it's the first time they've won by 3 goals since mid-January. And we move on to West Ham versus Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace got the first goal of the 3 o'clock kickoffs as they took the lead in the 6th minute through James McArthur. A free kick was swung in by Patrick Van Aanholt. It's headed down by former West Ham player James Tompkins. He heads it into a good area, hoping that one of his teammates is going to be there, and there was. Getting on it was James McArthur, who poked it past the onrushing Fabianski. But West Ham levelled the game up just after half-time as Robert Snodgrass got his first Premier League goal for the club. Pablo Zabaleta put a cross into the box. It was headed clear, but only as far as Snodgrass on the edge of the box, who takes a touch and curls one into the top right corner. And West Ham turned the game around in the 62nd minute as Javier Hernandez gave West Ham the lead. Andy Carroll was adjudged to have been fouled outside the area, and West Ham make the free kick count. Felipe Anderson looks to curl one in at the near post. Hennessy gets across to save but doesn't get it far enough away, and the natural poacher in Chicharito came out as he instinctively follows the ball and smashes home the rebound under zero pressure. And West Ham pulled away 2 minutes later as they doubled their lead as Felipe Anderson made it 3-1 to the Hammers. Pablo Zabaleta and Javier Hernandez keep the ball between themselves on the right hand side, and eventually Javier Hernandez puts it towards his left for Felipe Anderson outside the box, who takes a touch and strokes one into the top right corner. Hennessy had no chance. But Palace will get back into it as they reduce the deficit to 1 in the 76th minute as Jeffrey Schlupp got the goal. The German Max Meyer swings the ball in the middle, and there to meet it was Schlupp who nodded home. And that's how the game ended, with West Ham coming from behind to pick up their 3rd consecutive league win. Remember at the start of the season where West Ham were bottom after a few games and just didn't look like clicking? Well, they've clicked now and are now mid-table and just a win away from the top 7. West Ham have been a different team recently, looking like actual players who want to play, and the team have won 3 league games in a row for the first time since December 2016. Palace did start well and could have been 2 up if Milivojevic's free kick was an inch lower as it cannoned off of the bar, and that moment was to be pivotal as the next chances to come were West Ham taking the lead. And we move on to Everton versus Watford. Everton took the lead in the 15th minute as the player that left Watford in the summer scored against them. Seamus Coleman cuts in from the right hand side. He laid it off to Andre Gomez on the edge of the area. Gomez passes it into Walcott, who was a mile offside. He touches it back to Gomez, who squared it across goal, and there waiting for it was Richarlison, and the Brazilian put it home against his former club. But Watford levelled it up in the 62nd minute as Seamus Coleman inadvertently put the ball into his own net. Who were clean from Everton, and Gerard Deulofeu plays it to Kiko Firmino on the right wing. He put a low cross into the middle which Roberto Pereira hits towards goal first time. It cannons off the post though, comes back out and Seamus Coleman is just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Nothing he can do about it as it bounces off of him and into the bottom corner. And Watford took the lead just over 2 minutes later. Everton were caught napping as Watford take a free kick quickly. Kiko Firmino lays it off to Roberto Pereira again on the right hand side. He floats a ball in from the byline right onto the 6-yard line, and there rising over everyone was Abdoulaye Doucouré, and the lanky French midfielder headed down and past Jordan Pickford. But just over a minute later, Everton will get the perfect chance to level it up as they were given a penalty. A ball was lobbed in the middle. Yerry Mina and Christian Cabasela were jostling for position. Cabasela comes in, clatters his centre-back opponent, and the ref showed no hesitation as he pointed straight to the spot. Gylfi Sigurdsson stepped up to take it. He does a slow run-up, puts loads of power in it to be fair, but Ben Foster dives to the right, but with his trailing foot, he stops the penalty, and Everton squandered a golden chance. And it looked like it would be enough, but Everton snatched a late point as they made it 2-2 in the 95th minute. A free kick was given about 20 yards away. Lucas Digne and Gylfi Sigurdsson both standing over it. It was Digne who took it as he bent it around the wall and into the top left. And that's how the game ended, with Lucas Digne denying Watford what would have been a sweet victory over their former manager. Watford would have deserved the win as they were threatening all match and were outstanding in the second half, and Everton were flat throughout Watford's comeback and capped off a dismal 5 minutes with a penalty miss. Watford were holding on with relative comfort for the duration of the 6 added minutes, but Dingley's late free kick crushed them as the Watford players slumped to the floor in disappointment when the ref blew the final whistle. And we move on to Newcastle versus Wolves. Wolves took the lead in the 16th minute as Diogo Jota got his second goal in as many games. The ball started on the right hand side, Helder Costa and Matt Doherty keep it between themselves before the Spaniard whipped the ball in the middle. Jamal Lascelles was caught ball watching, it floats over his head, right to Jota on the 6-yard line, who chests it down and just about gets it past the keeper. But Newcastle levelled it up just 5 minutes later as Ayoze Perez made it all square. It started with a thunderous free kick that Salomon Rondon takes. That cannon's off the bar and the free kick itself deserves to go in, but it's just the wrong side of the goal line. Rondon does well to get the ball back, whip it into the middle. Perez gets onto it, flicks it backwards past the keeper for his second league goal of the season. But Newcastle would have to play the final half an hour of the match with 10 men as DeAndre Yedlin was sent off. He lost the ball very high up the pitch and Diogo Jota was in on goal. He's trying to make up for it. He pulls Jota to the ground, denying him a clear goal scoring opportunity. Mike Dean believes that Jamal Lascelles isn't going to get back in time and there's no attempt to play the ball, and he's sent off for an early shower. And Wolves would make their numerical advantage count as they won the game in the 93rd minute. It's all about Diogo Jota as he gets the ball just inside the half. He darts forward. The Newcastle players, though, they just keep backing off, and eventually he's suddenly in the penalty area. He takes a shot that Dubravka saves at his near post, but it falls to Matt Doherty, who headed home the rebound from close range. And as the game ended with Wolves snatching the win with pretty much the last kick of the game. Newcastle definitely deserved something from this game as they responded well to going behind and were moving it around nicely for a big chunk of the game. After the red card, they probably should have shut up shop, but they didn't. They pushed men forward, and by the time Jota picked up the ball, they were pretty much out on their feet. Newcastle showed great resolve to hold on for as long as they did, but this loss will be really difficult for them to take, as this was Newcastle's 7th home loss of the season already, which is an unwanted club record for Newcastle in the top flight. And we move on to Leicester versus Tottenham. Tottenham took the lead just before half-time when Son Heung-min got the goal. A good passing from Tottenham, and they looked to put a ball in, but it was cleared. It falls back to Serge Aurier, who gave it to the South Korean on the edge of the box, and he just rifles it past Kasper Schmeichel into the top left. And Tottenham doubled their lead in the 60th minute as Dele Alli got his 50th goal for Tottenham. Leicester cheaply gave the ball away and Tottenham come forward. Lucas Moura gave it out wide to Harry Winks. Winks takes it in just inside the area, dinks it towards the back post, and their stupid loader made it was Ali who headed home. And also, it was pretty much identical to Dele Alli's first goal for Tottenham. Same arena at the King Power, against the same keeper, Kasper Schmeichel, the same part of his body, his head, the same place, back post. It's like a mirror. If you compare the two goals, his first and his 50th, it's unreal how similar they are. And that's how the game ended, with Tottenham picking up the rather comfortable win. They rested both Harry Kane and Christian Eriksen for tonight's big game against Barcelona, and they clearly didn't miss them. At first they did a bit, but Son strike out of nowhere just completely changed the game. Leicester were looking for their 6th league win in a row, but a defeat to Spurs ends that as Tottenham, who were 5th after the Chelsea and Arsenal games, moved back up to 3rd. And we move on to Arsenal versus Huddersfield. A lot of people would expect some goals in this game a lot earlier, but it would take until the 83rd minute for one of these teams to take the lead, and it was Arsenal, and it was Lucas Torreira who scored for the 2nd game in a row. Just what a man. Oh, I love him. They made the Emirates wait for it, and just like last week, it was Pierre Aubameyang assisting Torreira as Aubameyang dinked the ball towards the 6-yard box, and Torreira decides, you know what, I'm going to bicycle kick it in, and he didn't need to. Actually, maybe he did. There was no one around him, but he's very small, isn't he? So by the time the ball dropped for a header, he was never going to win it. So yeah, what a man. What a man. And as the game ended, the visitors looked on course to pick up a valuable point with a good defensive display, but a late bicycle kick from the man from Uruguay, who is only 5 foot high, denied them that. It was a rare moment of quality from the home side, who struggled to create a lot of chances. Lacazette did have a goal disallowed for offside, again being the incorrect decision, something that Arsenal have been on the wrong end of a few times recently. Arsenal was slightly improved in the second half and got a late goal as they extended their unbeaten run to 21 games in all competitions. And we move on to Burnley versus Brighton. Burnley took the lead in the 40th minute and James Tarkowski was given the goal. Jack Cork will be fuming he had his second goal of the week nicked off him, but I'm sure the Burnley fans won't mind a lot as Brighton failed to clear two separate crosses in the box and it eventually forced a Jack Cork who unleashed a shot towards goal. James Tarkowski was pretty much on the line, it bounces off his chest and into the Brighton net. And as the game ended with Burnley picking up a massive win to end their run of 8 league games without a win. It was a game of few chances for either side and the goal that ended up winning the match was a rather fortuitous one. Brighton failed to get going until late on and by then it was just too late for them to mount a comeback as Burnley grinded out the win. And finally, we've got Cardiff versus Southampton. It would take until the second half to get the first bit of action and it was Cardiff who took the lead in the 74th minute. One of the changes that the new Southampton boss Ralph Hasenhüttl made was to bring in Yannick Vestergaard and God, he'll be regretting that. A horrible back pass from Vestergaard. Callum Patterson comes in, takes the ball and kept his cool, just poked it past Alex McCarthy and at the bottom corner, and then he did one of the nonsiest celebrations I've ever seen. Like, he's definitely a wrong after that celebration. Like, if you just look at his celebration, he's definitely touched a few kids. That's a legend. That was a joke. Please don't sue me. And as the game ended, the new Saints boss will look at the positives, but that massive negative in the way they conceded the goal will just be replaying in his mind. It's just a needless goal to give away. He'll be having nightmares about it. Cardiff squandered some good chances to be fair in the first half and it looked like Southampton weathered the storm, but a moment of madness from Southampton and they come away with nothing. Right, so that's all the games I've got for this week. Before we go, let's take a look at the Premier League table and top goal scorers, starting off with the Premier League table. Start with top 5, and as you can see, Liverpool are now on the top and the only team left unbeaten after winning at Bournemouth. Man City lost for the first time this season against Chelsea and they dropped down to second. Tottenham are third after beating Leicester, Chelsea are fourth after ending Man City's unbeaten run, and Arsenal make up the top 5 after a late win against Huddersfield. Moving on to the bottom 5, and Fulham are still on the bottom after being beat by Man United. Southampton are 19th after losing to Cardiff. Huddersfield make up the relegation zone after losing to Arsenal. Burnley climbed out of the drop zone after a win against Brighton, and Crystal Palace make up the bottom 5 after being on the wrong side of a 5-goal game at the London Stadium. Moving on to top goal scorers, and as you can see, Mo Salah is on the top after his hat-trick against Bournemouth took him to 10 goals and 4 assists. Pierre Aubameyang didn't score, but he did get the assist for the winner. That took him to 10 goals and 3 assists. Harry Kane didn't score against Leicester. He stayed on 9 goals and 2 assists. Raheem Sterling was silenced by the Chelsea backline, so he stayed on 8 goals and 6 assists, and I didn't mention it earlier, but those guys who clearly shouted black at Raheem Sterling. Honestly, I hope you get arrested. And why do newspapers blur their faces? Don't blur their faces. Let everybody know who they are. Let their work know. Let their family know that they are scum and they are just, I just don't understand. And Callum Wilson was out with a slight injury for the Liverpool game, so he stayed where he was on 8 goals and 5 assists. Right, so that's all I've got for this week. If you did enjoy, be sure to leave a like and subscribe, and I'll be back next Tuesday at 4 PM for the next episode of the Premier League review. To stay up to date about everything we do, it would be best to follow us on Twitter. The link to that is in the description, or it's at portionofsport_. Stay tuned tomorrow because I'm probably going to do reactions to tonight's vital Champions League game between Liverpool and Napoli, so I'll try and get the highlights to that out tomorrow, hopefully, if everything goes well. If you missed last week's episode, that'll be popping on your screen now, and along with a link to the channel so you can subscribe. But anyway, thank you for watching. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you are new. I've been Mark from A Portion of Sport, and I will see you soon.